Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. How are you doing? I hope you're having a fantastic day of the time of the day. Oh no, I forgot to take off my Christian cross here. Now everybody knows that I'm a secret Christian. Oh no, what am I going to do? No, just kidding. It's not a cross. It's actually, I have recently decided to become a pretentious hippie and to wear the Egyptian symbol of life, the Ankh, instead of the cross, because I cannot wear the cross because I'm not openly a Christian, only secretly a Christian. So that's what I decided to do. I'm just trying it out right now. Maybe I will transition from that to something else. I don't know. So how is everybody doing? What's going on? What's up? Today we are finally united to commence and to talk about a certain Muslim apologist named Hamza Tzortzis, who is a Greek convert to Islam. And I want to talk about him because when I was a Muslim, I actually heard about him a lot, and I heard a lot of praises about him. So, and the issue is many Muslims came here on this chat, and many people accused me of going after low-hanging fruit because I made these streams about Muslim converts, and I made a stream about Sajid Lipim and a Muslim mathematician, and people said, why do you always go after these low-hanging fruits, these low intellect people who don't have anything proper to offer? Why don't you look at really good converts like Hamza Tzortzis? And I thought, okay, well, fair point. So I should just look into that. I should just look at that guy. It looks very interesting. The issue is I have gone through several of his videos and I couldn't really find any explanation as to why he converted to Islam specifically. So I have made some notes to look at specific points of some of these videos of his, and I want to go through those with you together today. So let me immediately start working on putting that all on here. I don't know about his background. Some people say he's not even Greek or stuff like that. I don't know. As far as I know, he's Greek. As far as I know, he's from a Greek family, from a Greek background, from a refugee background in the UK. What I did get is that he had most of his friends were Muslims growing up, as far as I have understood, which already makes me think, well, there is already one reason why he converted to Islam, probably. But yeah, let's get into it. All right, let me share this here. I did the wrong thing here. Okay, what's up with this? Share screen. Okay, now I will share my screen and we will look at this video together. We will go through this video. This is one of the videos that I have about him, which is the journey to Islam of Greek brother Hamza Andreas Tzortzis in very emotional interview. And the emphasis on emotion is already there. And I want to really find out if this guy that I learned to kind of hear about and to look up to has proper reasons, justifications, intellectually convincing and pleasing reasons to convert to Islam. Now, I have, as said, gone through some of his story. Let me.
By the end of the night, that you will be better informed about atheism.
Came to be. He's from England, and I'm meeting with him.
Let me know if the audio is good.
Brother Hamza Tzortzis. He's a da'iyah, meaning a man who calls people to Islam.
Is it good?
Specializing in debating.
Is it good?
And defending Islam, an apologist also.
Is it good? Audio good. Okay.
His mission is to invite.
Yeah. Haslova said the Ankh symbol will not help you with vampires. I know that's the bad thing about it. Yeah, Milan Philosopher's Corner said, I read one of his books and it was really structured great. Yeah, I could go into that as well. It's just hard to do that during a live stream. Maybe he has some videos. I have like 4 videos ready here to go through his conversion. 2 of them are about his conversions, actually, are about his conversion story. And 2 other ones that I didn't really look through are why Islam is true and Islam, the rational choice. So I want to briefly look at his story, see what happened there, why he converted, because the issue is that when people like me leave Islam, we give reasons as to why we have left Islam. But when I made a video about why I left Islam, I explained lengthily the reasons why I came to reject this religion as false in the end and to denounce it, to renounce it. And so what I think about people converting to Islam is, if they want to convert to Islam and they want to advertise their conversion to Islam and invite other people to Islam, then I would expect them to give us proper reasons as to why they have intellectually decided that Islam is true and then converted to it. Especially since the Muslim side often accuses people like me of being emotional, which is very ironic because all the conversion stories that I have seen so far are emotional, whereas the ex-Muslim stories that I have seen so far are mostly supported with evidence and all that.
People to see the beauty of Islam. And today we're going to share his story, how he saw this beauty, and see the steps he took on the path of guidance. I hope you enjoyed this program with us.
I hope so.
And let me, on your behalf, welcome our brother Hamza today. Welcome, brother, and thank you for being with us.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. What I would like to start with you is to give us and give our viewers a little background about yourself, how you grew up, the environment you grew up with, your education, and geographically, where did you live in Europe before you settled, if you were not born in the United Kingdom?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. My name is Hamza Tzortzis.
The audio is a little bit, it's kind of mono. I hear his speech from the left, his speech from the right. I'm sorry for that. I will let him do a little summary. I don't want to watch the whole thing. It would be ridiculous to sit here and go through the whole story. I think he talks a lot about his childhood as well.
And I come from a Greek background. Both of my parents are Greek. My dad is from the mainland Greece, born in Athens, but originally from northwest Greece. My mother is ethnically Greek, but born in Cyprus. And they both came to England in the 1970s. And I was born in England, 1980. So that makes me 33 years old.
MashaAllah.
And I have a brother and a sister. And we're very close, as Greek families are typically quite close. And the kind of environment I was brought up in was essentially, from a socioeconomic perspective, a working class environment. Especially for the first 14 years of my life, we lived in very tall apartment blocks.
Okay.
Typically, it would be called a ghetto, like the Bronx, I guess. But then we moved out when I was 14. But during those years, those formative years, my father, he basically didn't like organized religion, but he loved Jesus and some of his sayings. And you could probably best describe my father as a new age humanist stroke spiritualist. Very loving guy.
Interesting.
Very self-empowered kind of individual. And deep in some ways. And that reflected on us. And we were inspired to investigate about the
So the humanist aspect of his upbringing and his parenting made him a nice person. I like that. Yeah, it was some people, especially of Greek background, are saying stuff like, "I'm ashamed that this guy is from my culture and from my country." I mean, I don't know why you would be ashamed. I think it's a very strange way of thinking, a very strange nationalistic way of thinking. I mean, the guy happens to share your ethnicity. Yeah.
life. So in the place where I was being brought up in London, we were very engaging with other cultures and religions.
Okay.
So my first kind of interaction with Islam was at a very young age. It wasn't a direct interaction, but it was more of a cultural interaction. So at school, I would have friends who are Muslim, and I would see some of the cultural practices or the beliefs that they were having. So I was engaged with Islam at a very young age.
Okay.
But the
Muslim
direct
friends.
engagement came a little bit after.
So this engagement was mainly observation, really, just.
It was mainly observation, but the direct engagement came when I was in high school.
Those who are familiar with such an environment in Europe, in the UK, similarly in other countries like Germany and other cultures, will probably better understand. People who are in America probably don't really understand this, but as far as he describes it, and as far as I am familiar with Europe, where I grew up as well, he was in an environment where his environment was full of other immigrants and descendants of immigrants. He came from a Greek Christian background and was probably surrounded by a lot of Turkish people and Pakistanis and others who were Muslims. So most of the people in his surroundings were probably of such background. So it's very likely that he's going to be in one way or another affected by Muslim culture and beliefs.
A little bit about that. How did that happen? The first contact, serious contact.
Well, the first serious contact was when I was in science class, and I had a friend who came from Bangladesh. He was born in London, but he's ethnically Bengali or Bangladeshi. And he would basically refrain from doing certain things and talking to certain people. He wouldn't do an unnecessary social interaction with the opposite sex. I found that quite bizarre. And he was like, because we honor women in Islam. And he was linking some of his practices to his beliefs. For me, was quite fascinating because I was very attracted to that type of different attitudes towards people and different behaviors that were not part of normal society. I found that quite attractive, that he was distinct and honorable in that way. So that was the first type of interaction. But the main interaction is when in the later years at high school, is when I had Muslim friends. I'll go to the mosque once and I prayed Jummah, the Friday prayer. I asked them certain questions and I found the belief very empowering because these kids, they were very distinct but empowered with the belief to the point was as if it was a self-evident truth. And for me, that was quite fascinating.
So already we see something here, which is that growing up, living his early life, it's not a story where a person who seeks the truth in the world happens to find that Islam is the truth, whether everything else is false. The story is basically that somebody who grew up around Muslims is very much impressed with the Muslims that he knows and participates in their practices and traditions. I mean, there is already a bias that establishes itself.
So the more direct engagement came when I went to college. Now, what I mean by college is the 2 years before university.
Yes.
But in America, you say college means university, but...
It means the same thing sometimes.
Okay, no worries.
Yes.
So the few years before university, when I went to college, I basically had a very direct interaction with the Islamic tradition to the point where people would be more direct in talking to me about the core beliefs, practices. And I was really interested in different cultures. And at the same time, I was reading about Buddhism. So I was very fascinated concerning the Buddhist
So you
tradition.
had some interest in this kind of issues, the spirituality?
All the time, because my dad brought me up
because
like
of the
that.
influence of
You know, my
your
dad would never talk about money or how to grow a business. My dad would never talk about, you should wear the best clothes or have the materialistic lifestyle. His main concerns were always about
character.
character.
Okay, we get it. We get that.
Avid capitalism. So,
With all respect, I just want to
answer. But if I didn't have these questions answered, it would be irrelevant because that would have no meaning. Because if you end in the grave, you just become one buffet. You're just a rearrangement of carbon. So what makes
I like that.
what
Rearrangement
makes
of carbon.
what makes a chocolate bunny any different from me? If I crush the chocolate bunny, that's just a rearrangement of carbon.
True.
And if I hang myself or shoot myself or crush myself, why is that any different from a chocolate bunny? From a materialistic, physicalist, scientific perspective, it's just a rearrangement of carbon. So what makes...
That's a very absurd idea to me. I have actually heard him say something like that before, that in the end we are all just, beings that are not so different from each other if there is no greater meaning behind us. But okay, great, what's your point? I mean, it's a very strangely rigid way of thinking, and humans do not function this way. And you have emotions, you have just the mere fact that you have emotions, that you have a consciousness, that you have an awareness, that you have feelings and certain reactions to things that happen around you, whereas this chocolate bunny doesn't have any such things, already makes a huge, giant difference. You can crush the chocolate bunny with your feet, and all you would be doing is just to rearrange or to crush something. Whereas if other people came and started crushing you with their feet, you would start screaming and bleeding and expressing your insufferable pain, which they would be hearing, which they would be relating to because they could experience the same thing. So yeah, sure. If you want to look at it like that, we are all basically beings that are fundamentally not too different from each other, but hey, we are aside from that, very, very much different from each other, as we can all experience. I don't see the point
Any
in
different.
this
There must be
assertion.
some kind of meaning that has a basis for our life. So that's why these questions for me were so important. If you can't answer them, you can't be truly happy.
So you were intrigued by the practices of those guys. You were observer. Then you became curious why this guy does not engage in social activities like the other guys. Then you went to the mosque and you saw those people and the way they believe it is like they have the real things. That got you more curious.
I find it funny how the interviewer didn't interact with his point at all and just jumped back to the other topic. I don't know.
Emotionally, that got me definitely curious. So when I was in college and I used to talk to different Muslims, obviously the Muslims were not great because they would practice one thing, or they should practice one thing, but they were doing other naughty things as well. But they still understood what was right and they would articulate that. And I liked the brotherhood that they had. It was quite transcendent. It transcended cultural.
Yeah, you will see that Muslims are very often very expressive, very strict about the things that they believe in, the things that they hold to be true and false, but most of them are very weak at practicing the things that they preach. And in my opinion, very honestly, that's because Islam is very hard to practice for the average human being because it is so unnatural and goes so much against your nature. A human is simply not naturally leaning toward living the Muslim life, waking up in the morning, praying 5 times a day, wasting your entire life away in some prayer. The human has needs, has desires which come forth, which are not bad, not evil. They are simply part of your nature, which you cannot really suppress by distracting yourself with such a brutally authoritarian religion like Islam. And religious people know this themselves. Many Muslims, most religious people themselves cannot live the Islamic life. They only wish they could.
Ethnic and social variables and barriers. So, and on the other hand, some of the values my dad brought me up in or with was quite in line with the Islamic tradition anyway. But at the same time, I was very interested in Buddhism. So I had like multiple interests. I like Kung Fu. I used to train in Wing Chun Kung Fu. I like Chinese medicine, herbal medicine. I used to learn Mandarin.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I found that, dealing with different cultures and beliefs was quite
That's interesting.
something that I enjoyed and fascinating.
Was it an incident or a relationship?
No, I mean, well,
So
not,
tell me
not
about
at that
that-
stage.
that
Not,
stage.
not at that stage, because at that stage for me, I didn't even focus on my it's called A levels.
He was focusing on
and they think they're
school.
happy.
He was a bright
And the only time they wake
student.
up is when the internet breaks down, or
That's
she
true.
left me, or
Oh, wait.
it's delusion. It's like a drunk. Who cares I get married? Who cares I become a millionaire? So what? I'm gonna die. Who cares? It's delusion. It's like a drunk. Like people who think this is meaning in their life. For me, I think this is drunk.
It isn't.
They're drunk with the world and they think they're happy. And the only time they wake up is when the internet breaks down, or
That's
she
true.
left me, or they get depressed. The thing is, people are drunk with life and they think, they have this full sense of self-sufficiency that I'm gonna be somebody and look at me. And I was like, I already know it. I could be like that. I had that capacity. I was very bright, but I didn't.
I mean, just because you live your life and you want to achieve something in life and do something in life, it doesn't mean you have to be, you want to be this big, rich guy that everybody looks up to. I mean, you can live life in so many different ways. I see the approach. I know where he's going with this. Yeah, you just live life and then you die. What about that? It's just meaningless. Well, the answer to that is definitely not Islam, because that brings you to the next paradox, where you end this temporary life on this planet that has been built for so long, and then you go on to the next life in which you basically live eternity in complete hedonism, simply drinking wine, having sex with your heavenly wives, and doing nothing, existing for no purpose, no reason, no aims, no goals, no desires, nothing at all. Simply just exist for yourself and worship Allah. That's it. That to me, I'm sorry, but to me, that is far more meaningless than the life that I have right now. Significantly more meaningless. I mean, it is truly pathetic to think that the ideal life would be to simply just exist and to drink all day and to have sex and to worship all day. That's the Islamic paradise. That is meaningful? That is supposed to be the meaningful thing that I compare my meaningless life through, my meaningless life to, in which I have goals and aims, and that doesn't seem very convincing to me. That doesn't really make sense. I find that unreasonable.
really focus on it because I didn't answer the big questions like who am I, what am I, whose am I, for whom am I, and maybe on a Friday night, where am I?
That's very interesting. For a young man in college, in this age, that is very unique and unusual.
What? A young man in college?
That's very interesting. For a young man in college.
In college, that is how is it unique? I don't. I don't understand how that is unique.
in this age, that is very unique and unusual.
But I was very childish as well. Don't get me wrong. I still was very juvenile and very kind of. I used to like to joke around, and I had girlfriends, and I wasn't like the serious monk thinking about man, life, and the universe. But it's as if I had a split personality in a way. Like I'll do the things I want to do, play football, do kung fu. But in the back of the mind was always these things.
What
always.
the meaning of
the meaning of life, the meaning of
where the transformation started and how.
Yeah, well,
It's kind of weird to me. Like it's like saying, "Wow, you were questioning the meaning of life at the age of 20? Wow, never heard of that before."
I went into university
it's interesting.
and I started to study psychology. Well, I studied something else and I changed into psychology. And I was still relatively sheltered in terms of meeting different types of people from outside of London. And the people I was with generally were like the Muslims or the Turks or the Pakistanis. And generally they had a culture of, it wasn't too selfish.
I'm studying psychology too, by the way. I'm aiming for an undergraduate degree in psychology. So
It
I
wasn't
can
what's
relate.
in it for me. There was still this kind of communitarian bond going on. But when I left that group, I went into university, I met other groups of people with not the same culture. And it was depressing. University was the worst time in my life. It was the worst time in my life. Because I met all these people and I realized that they don't care about sincere human relationships. It was, what's in it for me? This avid.
That doesn't have anything to do with culture. That has to do with university, because university is a completely different environment where people are usually very much detached from the more immature bonds that people have at the earlier stages of life, whereas there they go to a next stage where they are coming closer to pursuing an academic study, are less interested in simply living their lives and having fun, and not worrying about where they are going to go. Yeah.
Individualism. I'm all right, Jack. And for me, it didn't resonate with me because I was never brought up like that. My mum would always call me a thema. A thema in Greek is someone who does everything for people and gets walked over. Because I used to help people a lot, like help them with the essays or with the school or whatever the case may be.
Nice. My mother would describe me as somebody who cares a lot about other people and who has a very soft, a very kind heart, who cannot hurt anybody. That's how my mother would describe me all the time. But does that really make me? What does it really say about me? Does it make me a good Muslim?
And when I entered that environment, I was a bit depressed, thinking these people are shallow. Like I would wear the same jumper for 2 or 3 days. It's clean. I'm a clean guy. It's not a problem. It's a student. People would comment on that. And I'll be like, there's something wrong with this person. Why do they find it so important if I wear a jumper for more than a day or not? And
completely unrelated social commentary. I agree, but yeah.
people becomes their own deity.
So your values basically were.
Well, it was misaligned. Totally misaligned. Totally.
So
this is why one of my best friends was a 27-year-old at that time, and I was only like 18. So he was like nearly 10 years older than me. But I would really relate with him because he was a little bit more balanced, a little bit more existential. What does it mean to exist?
I was also much closer with people older than me.
And
So we have a lot in common. I think I will turn out to be another such guy.
we do this module. And the situation wasn't my fault, but everyone got blamed, and it's just a long story. But the point is, I left and I said, what am I going to do with my life now? I have to do something in this year. I can't just do one evening class. So I applied to different jobs, and alhamdulillah, I was so fortunate by the will and mercy of Allah that I got offered a job as a project officer, student project officer, which was in the realm of project management. And in this job, they threw money at me. Prince 2 training, PMI training,
MashaAllah.
ISEB training. And how old was I? 20 or something? I was getting all of this training. And it really facilitated a career for me.
Milhan, in paradise, my flesh would not be my prison of limit anymore. Yeah, but okay, but so what? I don't understand the point. I don't understand the point here. The fact that your life is temporary on Earth and that you are just going to live and then die. What does that exactly have to do with the point or pointlessness? Do we then have to conclude that there must be something eternal, that there must be something beyond this, no matter how meaningful or meaningless it is? I mean, if living your life on this planet is in complete emptiness and hedonism is seen as meaningless and emptiness, why is it seen as okay to live an eternal life in emptiness, in meaninglessness, in complete hedonism? How is that exactly fulfilling? I think it would be, I don't understand. I mean, if I never understood this, to be honest. When I was a Muslim, I didn't understand this. I didn't understand how exactly I am supposed to feel about the idea that I'm going to live an eternal life in heaven, and all I will do is just to exist and to have fun and to drink wine that doesn't make me drunk and to have sex with these women that Allah made for me, especially because I'm a man and that's what I apparently want. And and what's the point of that? So what? is that really the ultimate meaning? Is that really the ultimate pleasure? If that is the point of view, who are people to judge others for their meaning or meaninglessness in life? I would rather have a life on this planet, in this universe, that develops, that has a beginning point, or a far point in history that we can go back to. We can see the advancement of civilizations, of species. We can see development. We can see ancient cultures that we adopted things from. We adopt things from them, live by them, we develop things, give them to the future. We have our own lives in which we experience so many brilliant things. I would rather think of my life as part of this history, of this big history, and I would love to do something great with this while I am alive, rather than thinking that all of this is just meaningless crap. All of that just happened for no reason. And all I am is just this being that will go to paradise, and there I will just drink and have sex and worship. That's it. I don't see how that is more meaningful or more fulfilling. It doesn't appeal to me, apparently. I don't know.
So in this job, I basically was somebody who was young, but yet very loud and expressive and wants to bring people together and was real. I didn't do office politics. I would just cut to the chase. And they liked that about me. And I found that quite interesting because there was some...
A lot of unrelated stuff. So
we're a milk family.
Milk
Even my dad is 65 years old and he just drinks milk all the time.
nice.
That I wouldn't talk to people that I'm very close with, but I would talk to strangers and connect with them in an amazing way. But close people, I would just basically want them to not say anything but just be next to me. It's very weird. It must have been maybe something bad happened to me when I was younger. I don't know how to explain it. So I wanted to engage with this person and I found out she was Muslim. And I was like, hold on a second.
Yeah, a nice comment. Stop Scamming Man said in a super chat, an irony is that many convert due to existential questions like where do we come from, yet the religion forces them to reject the answers, such as evidence for abiogenesis, evolution of life, human evolution, and so on. Yeah, you can expand on that forever, but good starting point.
You're not supposed to be here.
I know my Muslim friends wouldn't be here.
Exactly. And I was younger. I don't know how to explain it. So I wanted to engage with this person and I found out she was Muslim. But close people, I would just basically want them to not say anything but just be next to me. It's very weird. It must have been maybe something bad happened to me when I was younger. I don't know how to explain it. So I wanted to engage with this person and I found out she was Muslim.
Okay, so he encountered a woman at a party who was apparently a Muslim, and he was not a Muslim
And I was
yet.
like, hold on a second. You're not supposed to be here.
I know my Muslim friends wouldn't be here.
Exactly. And she thought I was like some kind of mufti or some kind of imam saying, you know, undercover imam. And I was like saying to her, you know, they don't respect you. Look, you're beautiful. They're going to just take advantage of you. And I took the drink out of her hand and I bought her an orange juice.
Bold move.
Bold move, but I was always like that. Yeah. So we connected and we exchanged phone numbers and we spoke about her family, her brothers, her culture. And you could tell she was one of those sisters.
Boy, do I want to go into Nietzsche's critique of how all humans are hypocritical and have this will to power which motivates them and which makes them act in pretentiously altruistic ways, presenting themselves as honorable and virtuous and altruistic, but all they strive for is actually power. But I won't go into it. The issue is well, he has a problem with the fact that a Muslim woman there is at a party and enjoying herself, drinking alcohol, and he says to her, apparently he already cares a lot about the Muslim sentiment, and he says to her, "Why are you here? You're not supposed to be here. Muslims wouldn't be here." And these people do not value you. They just want your flesh and this and that. That's a very creepy way to advance and approach a woman, to say, hey, don't dress like that. Don't show your things. Don't drink like this. Don't do like that. They don't value you. Let me tell you more. Let me tell you. Talk to me. But it's quite ironic. The idea is that these people, this society, does not value you. You are here simply for the pleasure of others. But yeah, fine. But in an Islamic society where you do not enjoy yourself, where you do not drink, where you do not engage in relationships and sexual activities, you are essentially pushed into the background of society, silenced. You are no longer a part of society. Your entire purpose is to get married to a man as a woman, and to then become basically the servant of that man, to obey him, to have him as your master, to listen to everything that he says, to put a veil on yourself, and not to have any voice in the public opinion, not to engage in matters of governance, and not to make laws and all that. So the idea here is that in the West, in these societies, in these hedonistic societies, they don't value you. They just want to have sex with you. They just want your flesh, and they just want you to drink and all that. No, they don't value you. But on the contrary, you have an Islamic society which apparently, supposedly values women, as he will present
That
it.
really likes Islam and respects it, but
But in Islam, a woman is basically just made a lesser being, a slave. Isn't the irony far too obvious for me not to point at it? I don't understand. Maybe I'll expand on that a little
there was
bit
no
more.
love at home. So every time she wanted to come towards Islam, there was a barrier because the people that were representing Islam, there was no love.
Given the negative message.
Yeah, and that's one of our problems in the Muslim
energy.
community. We don't revive rahmah. We don't revive mercy and compassion in our homes. Although the Prophet ﷺ said, be loving. He said, if you love somebody, tell them. He used to carry Hassan and Hussein on his shoulders, and he would say, I love so-and-so. Oh Allah, I love him, so love him.
I'm sorry, but he's very correct in the fact that in Muslim families, the love is lacking. And although many Muslims may not want to admit this on the spot, but when you compare a regular average family in the Islamic world to an average American family, for example, in the American family, you will see that children are loved and cared for. Their desires, their needs, their feelings are taken very seriously. And I mean, often, I don't want to generalize here, but in comparison, relatively, are taken seriously. Their love is basically there and is very important. Is emphasized within the culture, whereas in Islamic society it is very common that love is not very much existent. People don't say "I love you" to each other very much. The relationships between parents and children are usually consist of giving commands and obeying the commands, and the children are supposed to learn not to disobey, not to speak up, not to disagree, and this and that. And I'm sorry, I simply do not think that is despite of Islam. I think that is because of Islam. I think that Islam is largely responsible for that attitude, because Islam does not teach these cultures to treat their children with such love and to do all kinds of things with them. Yeah, Muhammad says you should take care of your children, you should love them, you should I think there's like one hadith which says that you should play with them or something like that. But at the same time, you are supposed to be an authority figure who gives commands at home, and who, once your child reaches a certain age, forces them to engage in prayers and engage in certain activities. And you are responsible for the acts of your children. And it is entirely normal. You go to the mosque, you go to the scholar, you go to the imam, and they tell you to discipline your child and base that idea on the Quran itself, and tell you how to discipline your child, how you should force them to do things, and if you cannot force them, you should beat them. This is a very regular Islamic thing. So it is because of Islam that this takes place vastly in the Islamic world, which is not a coincidence. This is not something that Islam can fix. This is something that a lack of Islam will fix.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, you want to enter paradise until you truly believe, and you want to truly believe until you love one another. I mean, the Prophet told Aisha, his wife, radiallahu anha, may Allah be pleased with her, be compassionate. When you put compassion in something, it elevates it. When you remove compassion, it degrades it. I mean, this is our tradition. As
These are just words. I can say, I think we should all be very compassionate and loving. At the same time, I can also say, I think that women should obey me because that's just what they ought to do. And I think that children have no right to say anything. But hey, we should be loving. We should express our love, and we should be compassionate. See, I can claim that within my own context, within my own teachings and ideas, these are consistent things. Just because I say we should love and we should be compassionate, that does not mean I'm also not saying all those other very stupid things.
Jawziyah, the 14th century theologian, said, where you see rahmah, where you see mercy and compassion, you must see Islam. So she's a product of him. I never blamed her. But anyway, we didn't meet. I lost her number. She lost mine. And what happened was we have, but even during that period, I used to read this book by an Egyptian scholar. I forgot his name now. It's called Islam in Focus. It's a very old book.
So he was basically, Islam was on his mind forever. It was not like something that he was looking for and he
I used to
found.
read about Buddhism too, but when I would meet her, I would always talk about Islam, but at the same time, we wouldn't be interacting the way Islam. Yeah, I know. Well, that's crazy stuff. And on her,
That's very interesting and unique.
of
I've
course,
never heard that
yeah, I know.
before.
Well, even though I wasn't a Muslim,
What
but
is
at the same
interesting?
time, we wouldn't be interacting the way Islam wants. But I was still trying to preach to her, even though I wasn't a Muslim. Even in her,
That's very interesting and unique.
Just preaching
then she
to
calls
her.
me and basically says after a while that I just want to let you know that I'm praying 5 times a day and I'm wearing hijab. Yeah, it's quite special. So
Wait, so he so he made a Muslim become a practicing Muslim while he himself was not a Muslim by teaching her about Islam. That's very interesting.
because I wasn't a Muslim,
I'm not following the same guidance.
well,
yourself.
I needed to think about my life. That was the big problem. So pray myself, and then I had to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Ikhlas, in Arabic all myself. And I used to pray. I remember I used to go to the mosques, right, in England. And I used to be quite slim, and I used to wear tight jeans and tight shirts, and my skin would show. And the imams would always tell me off. They never knew I wasn't Muslim. It's like, you shouldn't be praying like this. So I wasn't Greek.
Okay, so he was already engaging in Islamic activities due to his interest in Islam and his background with Islam before he was a Muslim. So the funny thing is that the gist of what I'm getting here is that he already grew up as part of the Islamic culture. He didn't really have Christianity. But he explained himself that his family was a very progressive family that was built on different things, not on Christianity. And he grew up around Muslims. He liked their practices. He engaged in their practices. So he basically grew up as a cultural Muslim almost. So it's not really a conversion. It is more like just becoming religious.
And then it was like, I didn't want to drink much. I didn't want to party or go early to the house and just read Quran in English. And when I came back to England, and then I gave up. I remember going to a mosque, and I remember my friend telling me at college, when you're in prostration, you're the closest to your Lord. So scream to him. I would scream and shout. I remember I was in sajda, prostration, saying, if this is you, and if you're real, and if this is the truth, then show me. And after that point, I just gave up. So one of my friends, the friend in school who didn't speak to women, he came and saw me in my house after all those years.
Wow.
And he had this amazing project. I didn't see him for years. And it's so amazing how things work out, how Allah plans. So he had this crazy project. He wanted to take this new sport into the Olympics. He had this vision of, it's called pat ball or thumb ball. Yeah.
Okay. And he wants to take it to
Well,
the
he
Olympics.
wanted to speak to me because I was a project manager and he wanted some kind of help. So he re-entered my life. And then he would give me some booklets on Islam and I'll be reconvinced and it'd be very interesting conversations. He'll be giving me da'wah, calling me to the oneness of God.
Approached by a Muslim that he knew.
And in reality, I knew I was intellectually convinced that Islam was true.
Why?
One day, I
Wait,
think it was October the 4th, 2002. He came to my house. He said, sit in my car. I went to sit in his car. And he just talked to me. He said, this is the truth. And in reality, I knew I was intellectually convinced that Islam was true. I was intellectually convinced that the Quran was from Allah, that God existed. I could even prove this better than Muslims at that time. But it was abstract. I didn't internalize it in my heart. So what he did helped me. He sat me down and just talked to me about death. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Every soul is going to taste death, as the Quran says. But the way my friend described it was in such a way I don't remember. It's so poetic, though, that to try and re-express it is trying to find or chase a black cat in the dark. You just can't. The pen breaks in two when I tried to express what happened. But it was so real for me. I went back home in the middle of the night and I just sat and just thought. And I was like, this is it. I need to take this stuff that I know seriously. I need to internalize it now. I can't be a donkey carrying books. Yeah.
Okay. So he said he was intellectually convinced already at this point that Islam is true. So he had already acknowledged that Islam is true at this point. He didn't explain why he was intellectually convinced that Islam is true. But he was just lacking the emotional push that he needed to get into Islam, which he then got by talking about death, which is very funny because what you actually learn in psychology is that death is a topic that can make people think differently about everything, including it can make them start new habits. It can make them like something which may seem paradoxical. Like there was a study that people that smokers are more attracted to smoking another package ever since ever since the cigarette packets have these depictions of death on them, because the depiction of death in people activates this thing. Oh no, we're going to die. Oh no, oh no, what am I going to do about it? Well, what's the best thing that I do if I deal with worry, if I deal with sorrow? I just cling to something that distracts me, that gives me hope. And what is that? It's the cigarette. So let me take a cigarette out of there and smoke it. So the point of the study is that depictions of death and reminders of death actually push people closer to reaching for something that gives them the idea or the illusion of hope, even when it's the cigarette itself, which people warn about. That's what kind of a thing death is, because as a human, your primary thing is to exist. You want to keep going, and death is the ultimate end of everything to you, and you want to avoid that by all means. And if you cannot avoid that with specific concrete things that you can hold on to, you will want to avoid thinking about that by telling yourself that you will go to an afterlife. You will be resurrected and go into some afterlife, and death will not be the end. And in Hamza's case, as a cultural Muslim, the best thing to do was to jump into Islam, the religion which he already knows and which he was sympathizing with as he was growing up around Muslims. That's what I get so far.
So on October the 5th, on a Saturday, I went to the Central Mosque, lots of brothers there, and I became Muslim.
Allahu Akbar. That's very, very interesting and touching. Now tell me, at that moment, you're abandoning a way of life and entering another one. There will be some...
Not really.
some probably obstacles in the way. Tell me first about the positive things you saw when you decided to make this decision. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to live what I believe now.
Yes. Well, it was more of a transition because I was already changing some things anyway. Like I wouldn't drink and I would pray before I would pray. But I think the most amazing thing for me, something which I miss actually, when I became Muslim, was the first few months when I would go to the mosque at Fajr time, in the morning time. And it was an amazing feeling.
The obstacles. Obviously, you grew up in an environment that...
I know what he's talking about, because I felt the same thing when I myself became religious, when I joined a religious community, and I had the actual realization. I was basically where he was when I became religious. I grew up, okay, well, maybe I was a little bit closer. I grew up in a religious Muslim family. At some point, I became convinced with Islam and living a completely Islamic life, became so convinced, started practicing, started praying in the morning, reading through the night, praying to Allah through the night, asking for repentance. And I actually just recorded a video about this, which I want to publish tomorrow or so. But I had an amazing feeling. It's a feeling that I cannot compare to anything else. It was a beautiful, sweet feeling that I had. And that sweet happiness that I had when I was first introduced to this new Islamic life and to complete submission made me feel like so complete. I thought, okay, this is it. This is so beautiful. This is all I need. This is all I want. The issue is that's not unique to people who convert to Islam. It's not unique to me. It is not unique to religion. In fact, it is. I have heard the same thing from many people who have converted to Christianity, for example. I've heard the same thing from many people who have decided to go a different way, who have decided to become a Buddhist and to annihilate their ego or things like that. I experienced similar, not the same thing, at other stages. But all it is just an illusion of meaning, a newfound thing, an ultimate joy within you of happiness. It cannot be true that this feeling actually tells you that you have found something true, because it cannot be true. It cannot be possible that you experience the same confirmation of truth, natural confirmation of truth, within completely different contradictory truths like Christianity and Islam, which are fundamentally in contradiction with each other. What it is just a biological reaction that your body has to something that you have found. It stimulates your brain, and what happens after a while? It goes away, and then you miss it, as he himself just said it. In fact, He said he had that at the very beginning, and after a while it went away, and he misses that. And he becomes emotional thinking about it. And sometimes I miss that. Sometimes I think back about the time when I became very religious, and in fact, I miss that feeling. But I know that that feeling had nothing to do with Islam. It had to do with me being convinced that I had found the ultimate meaning in life. And, it was a feeling for me. He describes this the same thing. It was a feeling of euphoria, of great happiness. But you know what? I have actually felt something much better when I first tried mushrooms. I know I don't want to promote any any consumption of things right now, but when I tried mushrooms, I actually felt something that was much more profound. I didn't feel great euphoria and happiness. What I felt was, for the first time ever in my life, and for the only time ever, I felt completely at peace. I didn't feel very cheerful and very happy, very euphoric. I felt completely at peace, free from all kinds of worry. Anything that worries me, anything that is bad, I was like, it's okay, it's fine. There's nothing to be worried about. Everything is okay. Everything is wonderful. And that doesn't mean that mushrooms are the truth. It just means they do something to my mind, to my brain, which is why they make me feel a certain way. There was even a study which was about how people of different faiths at the peak of their religious practices, including it was comparing Catholic nuns to Buddhist monks, when what they experience at the times of their peak religious or spiritual practices, their brains are basically doing the same thing. And when you do certain drugs, recreational drugs, or when you work out, or when you meditate, or when you do yoga, the same thing happens again in your brain. It doesn't really say anything about what you're doing. It just says something about you, about your nature, what you are as a human, and how you react to nature. Yeah.
It was supportive because many Muslims in the city you grew up in, and you were exposed to Islam from early age, your friends and things. I'm sure you'll have some obstacles. Did you have any issue with the family? Any issue with the previous friends, the career?
Well, my previous friends mostly were Muslim.
See, there you have it. His previous friends were already Muslim. He was already part of the Muslim community.
Okay.
So
that
wasn't a
makes
huge
it
problem. But I did have colleagues that were women that were not Muslim, and they were very upset what happened. But the main problem was family. I mean, my dad is very open-minded, and so is my mom, very tolerant. My mom's a refugee from the 1974 Turkish invasion.
Mm-hmm.
But my sister was engaged to a Turk for 10 years. I mean, they're very open-minded. 1974 Turkish invasion.
Mm-hmm.
In
but my
Cyprus?
sister was engaged to a Turk for 10 years. I mean, they're very open-minded. But my dad was mostly upset, not because of the cultural change. Yes, my mom was upset because I changed my name, which I shouldn't.
What year was that, by the way?
This was 2002.
Oh, right after 9/11. Now, where Islam is really
Yeah,
a problem. I mean,
yes.
come on, where are you going, guy?
Yes. So my dad was upset because he said, "Why are you going backwards for? The things I taught you was moving away from religion, being progressive, liberal, humanist, spiritual." That was his issue. So he was really upset because he's like, all the experiences he had in his life that he learned from, it's as if I threw that in his face.
Yeah.
And obviously we would argue for the first few years, but it would be like a friendly, loving kind of argument. It would be intense. It'd be very stressful. I think the worst mistakes I did in that period was to basically make out as if my dad was incompetent and that he wasn't my hero anymore. Because my dad was always my hero, and he still is. I mean, his values are phenomenal. He's like a walking Muslim without faith. All he needs is the faith.
May Allah guide him.
I mean, he recently said that he believes Muhammad is a prophet.
Allahu Akbar.
So, and he believes God is one. So he's almost there.
He's there.
He's almost there, inshallah. So,
I'm sorry. Akhi, this is beautiful. That's what we love, the passion. And alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
The emotion.
I think the worst thing was, and this advice to new Muslims, that subconsciously, just because you found the truth, you think everyone who loved you is baseless now, and you want to try and make sure that they're wrong, that they're bad. And that's what I tried doing with my father, because he was a hero to me, but he wasn't Muslim, and I became Muslim. So what do I do with this hero? So I was trying to hack him down, basically, and I would really make him feel really, really bad.
I'm really sorry to call out the hypocrisy right now. For a moment, I began to sympathize and feel for his crying about his father and what he feels for him. But I'm really, really sorry for calling out the giant hypocrisy right now. What I want to say at this point is, shut up, Hamza Tzortzis. Fuck you, Hamza Tzortzis. I'm very sorry, but shut up. Stop with the emotional BS. Hamza Tzortzis is an individual who is part of Islamic organizations, Islamic groups that host individuals who openly, outright advocate for the demonizing, dehumanizing, insulting, reducting, and annihilating of those people who no longer believe in Islam. Yeah. He's a friend of Muhammad Hijab. He's a friend of other people around him, the Dawa people. He's a friend of, he's around Ali Dawa, who is notorious for sitting there and saying, yeah, people like you, little weaklings who leave their religion and can spread corruption by spreading it, the capital punishment will be applied to you. And you know what? We're proud of that. We'll be watching. Yeah, he's together with such people. He's around such people. He's together with Muhammad Hijab, who is an individual who says things like that people who are against Islam secretly want to be abducted and raped by the Muslims. He works together with Muhammad Hijab, despite everything that happened, despite the encouragements of suicide and the rape implications and everything that Muhammad Hijab did, and all the things that these people have said and done. So, excuse me, but when you sit there and you act emotional because you're crying about your father, who is not a Muslim, but who is such a good figure to you, and you speak about how we should not judge those people in our lives who did not convert like us, then I simply cannot overlook the giant major hypocrisy of you also believing and sitting together with people who believe that people who no longer believe in Islam should be executed and persecuted and punished and threatened and sexually abused and all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure you're also friends with other people who have said much worse things, such as that slavery should be brought back and that an Islamic state should be established and Islam should be imposed on others. So stop with the nonsense. And if this emotional stuff is serious, then look back, look into the mirror and see the hypocrisy. Dude.
The smallest mistakes in his life and make them huge. And I'm a father. If my
Great.
did that to me,
I hope your children leave Islam, and I wonder what you then think about that.
It will be devastating.
of course.
Yeah, look, of course, my children have left Islam, and I have agreed my entire life that they should be put to death, and we would be happily watching, and we would be proud of that. Now they have left Islam. What am I going to do? I have Muslim children. Should I be watching them put to death? Or should I say, we'll be watching, and we're proud of that. My dear child, my dear son, you will be put to death, and you know what? I'm proud of that. Is that what you're going to do? I'm really sorry. I feel the sympathy, and I feel close. I feel a connection when people cry and say such emotional things that I feel like I can relate to. And for a moment there, I was fooled. But what a hypocrite.
You know what? He is a very lucky father.
Yeah.
He really is.
I hope he leaves Islam. No. Yeah, maybe he. No. I hope. Okay, well, he was talking about his father. Whatever.
So I was reading that to him for many years. And I went on this kind of psychology course that makes you realize how bad you are, right? Like, it's your fault. Take power in the relationships you have in your life. And I realized that I treated my dad so bad. So I called him up after 6 years. Of something being a Muslim. I said, Dad, I need to speak to you. He's in Greece nursing my grandfather. My dad was a very nice guy. He was wiping his backside, changing his clothes.
Yeah, I just saw a comment. I just wanted to play a clip of Muhammad Hijab saying, "Be a man." Jeez.
And he nursed he nursed my granddad for 3 years. And I never knew.
Stop crying! Really, what embarrassment is this? Be a man.
Really impressed with my father.
That's what Muhammad Hijab would say.
He's a loving guy, but he hates blood and he hates mess. Anyway, so I called my dad. I said, Dad, I want to speak to you. He's like, you know, I hardly speak to him now, right, at that time. He thought something happened to the grandchildren or what's going on. So I said, Dad, I want to let you know that I know you love me. I know you love me.
I love you too.
And everything you've done is because you love us. Like my dad used to work for 76 hours in a row. He wouldn't eat. He would just drink coffee.
I love
He
you
was a
too.
laborer. He was in the factories.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't eat at all. And he'll come back tired and shattered. He had lots of varicose veins because he used to iron clothes as well.
Nice. Okay.
So I said, everything
So I can
you did
listen
is
to this
because
bullshit.
you're the guy, and I love you. And he was crying for 15 minutes. And he doesn't.
Yes.
In this period in Islam, no matter what their faith is, to be kind to them.
Of course, I mean,
So
the
honestly,
the Quran, when it mentions
no matter what their faith,
to say, sallallahu alaihi
well,
wasallam.
tell me now, how did Islam influence you in this period? I mean, being kind to your parents is a virtue.
Of
It's
course.
not a virtue only. It is a mandatory commandment in Islam. No matter what their faith is, to be kind to them.
Of course, I mean,
So
the
honestly,
the Quran, when it mentions worship Allah, then he mentions them be good to your parents.
absolutely,
It's so
immediately.
close to the oneness of Allah to the point you disobey your parents like disobeying God. And it's almost close to.
It's funny. The Quran also says that if your parents have chosen disbelief or chosen idolatry over belief, then you should not befriend them, your parents. Now, of course, there is then also one that says that those who have not fought you, it's not forbidden for you to be good to them. But yeah, you should not be friends with your parents if they prefer disbelief over belief. So that is Islam. And hey, if your children leave Islam, then capital punishment will be applied to you. And you know what? We'll be watching. And we're proud of that.
Polytheism. That's what you don't do things like that. But obviously that didn't affect me the first few years because I was very passionate and zealous. But now I try to do everything for my parents. I mean, they did everything. How can you repay your parents?
Well, let's shift gear here
Yeah,
and
sure.
go to what you do now.
Of course.
You are traveling the world, basically, calling people to Islam. Many people were exposed to Islam. Many people entered the world of Islam through your teaching and through your
Before I answer, I
activities.
just want to mention something about my mom as well.
Please.
My mom is just like my dad as well, super sacrificial. And, you know, she was a refugee and she sacrificed so much and she gave us so much love as well. Like my mom's love is like ishq. It's like a possessive form.
Yes.
Ishq is like a possessive form of love and it's very powerful and she's full of energy.
Well, I quickly want to play a song to have a short break.
Wallahi, some people have been calling me and giving me some emails. Brother, I have doubts. What doubts, man? What kind of man are you anyway? What kind of woman are you? What kind of Muslim are you? What kind of Muslim are you? Brother, I have doubts. What doubts, man? Brother, I have doubts. Yeah, man. Brother, I have doubts. What's the problem? Brother, I have doubts. Quiet, man. Brother, I have doubts. What doubts, man? Brother, I have doubts. Yeah, man. Brother, I have doubts. What's the problem? Brother, I have doubts. Quiet, man. Brother, I have doubts. What doubts, man? Brother, I have doubts. Yeah, man. Brother, I have doubts. What's the problem? Brother, I have doubts. Quiet, man.
I hope you enjoyed this song. I made it myself. This is the first song that I have made, which I'm very proud of. I just thought it was very suitable for the occasion here. Maybe I should publish it as a separate video. I don't know. Okay.
You know, because I speak about my dad a lot. That's because he has an influence. But my mom, you know, sometimes I think I'm like my dad, but in ways I'm so like my mom. That energy that I have. So my dad sometimes sits back at home and reads a lot and is quiet for a few hours. But mom's always energetic, and I got that from my mom as well, and very loving. I think I got that from my mom as well.
Okay, I will publish it right when I'm done with this. I will make that public. Okay.
So, you know, I also want to mention that my mom is actually a gem. You know, how many women are refugees and accepts the race.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Your family is great. Fantastic.
Wants to
Where
be
is this?
engaged with, because the Quran was sent down for the whole of.
Donate to the Muslim community so you can get a house in paradise.
To have a son such as Hamza. Enhancing your
And Chinese medicine. I would always speak in Arabic. Was a very long.
Yeah, there's nothing
That's the
else.
nature of the da'wah is the one who could carry. A black man stood up and he was crying, and he was like shocked. I don't believe Muslims are like this. Taking that kind of community feature, and just.
So what a waste of time.
It's liberty, and he can put in there. He's a wrestler as well in England. He used to train the English team.
If people like to talk about themselves, I get it, but the whole conversion story is basically
Dr.
just he talking about how beautiful Muslims are and how beautiful he himself is and how beautiful his parents are and all that. I don't see any intellectual substance here.
How to get to paradise, how to get the pleasure of God.
So there's no deity worthy of worship apart from the deity, the true God. And I bore witness that Muhammad, upon him be peace, is his last and final messenger.
That's the same testimony to swearing to. If you were living during the time of Jesus,
Yes.
you'd have to make that same testimony,
That's
right?
it.
You'd have to declare that there's nothing worthy of worship except the Creator, in Arabic, Allah, in Aramaic, Allah.
Exactly.
And then Jesus is the messenger of God, right?
Yes.
So you didn't do anything different.
Oh, not just that, I accepted reality. Like, for example,
Does he have this?
Testimony,
that's
right?
it,
You'd have during
is his last and final messenger.
Yeah, so here they're going with the whole narrative using this conversion story title, which did not really do very well. And they go with the narrative that Jesus is basically a messenger of Allah, just like Muhammad, but Muhammad is the final messenger. And if you have pledged allegiance to Jesus, then you should now pledge allegiance to Muhammad. Nice.
He even says despairing is an act of the disbeliever. Only the disbelievers despair. So if you want to be that believer, you know you shouldn't be in a state of despair, that God always wants you to
emotion.
And then they go and take a philosophy class in college, and then they just leave it all. They paint them all the same brush, and they put Islam in this bucket, saying it's all man-made.
وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا الْكَوْثَرِ, chapter Al-Kawthar. 3 lines. And no one has been able to challenge this book, as Professor Arbuthnot said.
Okay. Here we have one thing for the first time.
Referring to the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, bring one chapter like it. You took a philosophy 101 class. You're an atheist, agnostic. You don't believe in religion. It's all dogma. What does the Quran say? If you are in doubt about this book, which we have sent down to our servant, referring to the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, bring one chapter like it. One chapter.
I have made a video about this whole challenge. So this is the one thing in terms of intellectual substance proof for the Quran which he presents, as far as I've seen so far, that this is the absolute challenge. If you don't believe in it, if you think this is just religion, just dogma, then bring a chapter like it. Bring a chapter like the Quran. You cannot. I made a video about this quite recently. I titled it, I don't know, what did I title it? The Quran's Ultimate Challenge or something like that. In which I addressed that very specific challenge of the Quran. Just looking at how ridiculous my thumbnails look. Well, where was that? When did I do that? So I made a response to that very specific challenge. Right. Where the hell is it? Why can I not find this? Why can I not find it? Why can I not find it? No. Oh, here. It's right here in front of my eyes. I challenge you. I accept. Here, the great challenge of the Quran. I made a video response to exactly this specific challenge, in which I responded to that very specific challenge and showed how absurd that challenge is. How it doesn't make any sense, how the Quran is not a brilliant book, how it is not a very unique book, how it is not counted among the best books of all time, how no list ever counts it as one of the best books ever, how just Google, look at what scholars of literature count as the best books of all time. On no list will you possibly find the Quran. And that's not because people have some bias against the Quran. People are biased, and people don't like the Quran. No, it's because people include things of all kinds of different cultures. Some of the things included lead back to very old times, to ancient Greece. Some of the best books ever that you can find on these lists. You will not find the Quran on those lists, because the Quran is not a great book. It does not flow. It does not have a lot of facts, mind-blowing facts in it. It does not have any revolutionary knowledge in it. It is constantly repetitive. It does not stick to a certain style. It does not make you want to sit down and turn its pages. It is boring as hell. It is confusing. what exactly is the challenge? What challenge are we supposed to meet? What are we supposed to produce that is better than the Quran, or that is like a chapter in the Quran? What exactly is this challenge about? The challenge has no specifications, no proper guidelines, no requirements, nothing. Whatever I produce and bring forth and say, look, this is like the Quran or better than the Quran, the Muslim will always say, no, it is not better than the Quran. No, it is not like the Quran. And they can always make an endless amount of excuses to explain why the thing that I have produced is not better than the Quran. Because there are no specific guidelines, there are no specific rules which we are supposed to abide by to meet this challenge, which is why Muslims who loyally believe in this religion can freely expand the challenge, freely expand the rules as they wish, so that they can never, ever accept anyone as having actually challenged and met this challenge. It is so ridiculous, so dumb. I'm sorry. I've read the Quran myself. I know many other people who have read it. I've read it many times in different translations. I've looked at it in Arabic. I cannot possibly see how any reasonable person who is not convinced by Islam can say that this book is so fantastic, so unique, like nothing else in the world.
Chapter Surah Al-Kawthar. Chapter Al-Kawthar. 3 lines. And no one has been able to challenge this book. As Professor Arbuthnot says, although
Milan said, well, when I read hadith, I can't stop turning the pages. It depends on your enthusiasm. You know what? I agree. When I read hadiths, I actually find it interesting. I actually have, I recently got myself a summary of Sahih Bukhari, which has removed all the repetitions and made, listed all the hadiths. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I keep going because I keep wanting to consume more information about, because hadiths are very specific. They tell us from the perspective of supposed witnesses about the things that Muhammad said and did. And what you want to do is going to the next hadith. You want to find out, okay, what did he say here? Okay, what did he do here? Okay, what did he say now? Okay, what did he do now? That's not like the Quran. And admittedly, you should admit that the hadiths are much more exciting and much better to read than the Quran. Because the Quran doesn't have a specific style, a specific perspective, a specific thing that it sticks to. It is merely just some severely deluded guy with a volatile mind, basically vomiting all his thoughts randomly onto paper, and others then read this and they're like, "Oh, what the hell is this?" Yeah. Okay.
several attempts have been made to challenge the Quran. None have yet succeeded.
Yeah, because you don't accept any of the challenges.
The Quran.
I will write my own Quran, and then I will say, hey, you know what? Bring something better. And you know what I will do then? No matter what Muslims bring, I will always say, no, it's definitely not better because of A, B, C. Or actually, I don't even have to give justifications. I will just say, no, it's not better. Therefore, I am the prophet.
Approach to veiled text in the chapter called the dynamic style of the Quran. He says the Quran is amazing as a dynamic style that no one can reproduce, and no other classical Arabic text can achieve what the Quran achieves.
That's a very low bar. It's a very low standard. No other classical Arabic text can achieve. Arabic also happens to have a very poor history in terms of literature, especially old literature predating the Quran.
Can we make it even more simple for the people now? Because they'll say that, look, all religions, all people, they claim, if you don't believe in this, you're going to hell. But really, when you investigate it, there's only two. It's Christianity and Islam. Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong. And when you investigate the claim that, let's say, our brothers in humanity make the Christians, they'll say, if you don't believe in Jesus, your Lord and Savior, you're going to hell. When you investigate it, Jesus never said that.
Yes.
He never said this.
So why are there only Christianity and Islam? I don't understand.
First and foremost, I didn't understand a word the lady said. I hope you're going to understand me. This is a social and political narrative, a social and political story. We have the likes of
I just want to get the gist of what he's saying here.
Yeah. when you say his name, it's almost like you want to spit, right? Geert Wilders. He just recently today, we heard on the news that he was acquitted from court for conjuring up all this hatred against Islam and Muslims. And I think
the best way to begin a propaganda is by talking about all the people who hate Islam, or who want to persecute you and who don't like you.
And we had a very positive engagement with the non-Muslims in the Netherlands, and they really wanted to move away from the outdated cliches and all the negative, and for them to vent out all this hatred against Islam, and frankly, hatred against anything other than them. And it says more about them than it says about other people. It's almost like the psychologists, what do they say? They say,
And why do you have to start a lecture titled "Why is Islam the True Religion" with "Look at the enemies of Islam"?
nothing to do because they've had enough of the other politics, as it were. Look at the financial crisis. This is what a big philosopher in the West said. Our passions are the real driving force. Our mind is just something that, makes an excuse for the passion. So it's very important for us to have a balanced discussion that yes, Islam agrees with the mind, but it also gives tranquility to the heart. And I think there's a very important statement here from the author, Lex Hickson. He wrote a book about the Quran. He's a Western author. And he said the following words: neither as Christians or Jews, nor as simply intellectually responsible individuals have members of Western civilization been sensitively educated or even accurately informed about Islam. Even some persons of goodwill who have gained acquaintance with Islam continue to interpret the reverence of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the global acceptance of his message as an explicable, fine excuse. Because from an anthropological perspective, nowhere in history do you have one man, one book, 23 years, and then you have a civilization. It's a historical, anthropological impossibility almost. This is why Lex Hickson is saying...
You wouldn't have an entire civilization come forth out of Arabia with the advent of Islam if Islam had not expanded as a state and a giant military force which began to rule over people and to invade the world from the very beginning to the very end. If Islam had simply started out as one guy preaching things and others then going around and also preaching things, it would have definitely not happened in the same way. So how exactly is that a point for Islam? That is kind of similar to comparing it to the Roman Empire, which started out as this pathetic little, maybe pathetic is a little bit too much, but as this little republic, which suddenly became this large, gigantic, fantastic empire. Or maybe it's like comparing it to the Mongols, who are one of my favorite topics, where Genghis Khan started out as a tribal guy who ascended to becoming a leader and who then made it his mission to conquer the entire world and to rule over the people of the world as kind of a representation of something divine. And he was literally named the ruler of the universal ruler. He was just one man in some pathetic little in these pathetic steps where no life is properly formed, where no civilization takes place. And he brought the Islamic empires to its knees, shook Europe and all that. How did that happen? Must have been something to do with their true gods, with their true shamans and all that. How is that exactly proof for anything?
You really could look at...
If you want to look at Zoroastrianism started out supposedly, if you look at its history, from one guy who took certain traditions and certain practices and preached a certain truth, which then people adopted and turned into their own religion, and they practiced this religion for a very, very long time until it was, of course, invaded and exterminated almost by Islam.
Islam, you only have two options. We have to find some excuse for its emergence of this amazing civilization, or we have to say supernatural, because never in history did we have this...
How the hell does it make sense? I mean, you have to really find an anthropologist and say, hey, dear anthropologist, you have to explain how this makes sense. This is either supernatural or something very strange must have happened there.
One man, one book, and only 23 years, and lo and behold, you have at least 1/3 of the world overtaken by this new model of governance, this new system of harmony. It was an impossibility. So I think we could justify Islam as a religion, as a true religion, in many ways. And the first way is going to...
How did Christianity become the world's largest religion for over 1,000 years by just one man just preaching and dying? How did that happen? How did that happen? Of course, it happened with divine intervention. And of course, because Jesus was, according to Muslims, a messenger of Allah. But apparently, Allah was behind this, and he helped spread the wrong thing, the wrong conclusion from his messenger, the wrong message, the religion which is built on the idea that Jesus was actually the Son of God and God himself. Who else could have done that except a divine instigator, a divine creator who decreed all that to happen? Obviously, it was God himself who made Christianity happen, who established Christianity as this giant major civilization, this major religion which now rules everything. Therefore, of course, Christianity is true. What can you say?
Be general with religion in general. And it's going to be a sociological argument. I'm going to say Islam as a religion.
I'm being ironic, by the way, and this is not a cross. So.
Increases mental and physical health, and it lowers crime. And I'm going to go into Western academics, what they talk about with regards to the sociology of religion. I'm also going to talk about that Islam makes sense because
the Western world is currently the most peaceful world, and self-reported happiness is the highest in the Western world. The Western world is also ranks extremely high in intelligence, extremely high in education, and extremely high in work efficiency, extremely low in crimes, extremely high in safety, extremely high in human rights, and all that. And as a result, we can of course conclude that Western liberalism, which is the current foundation of Western society, together with Christianity, are both of divine true nature. So
the concept of ultimate purpose and ultimate meaning in life. Also, Islam makes sense because of the concept of God. Islam makes sense because of the nature of the Quran. And Islam makes sense because of the truthfulness of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is a very key argument. For those who don't enjoy philosophy, who don't enjoy logic, and just want to really look into the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you would see just by looking at his life in an objective way, you know that he couldn't be a liar, he couldn't be deluded, he must have been speaking the truth. Also, we're going to talk about Islamic economics. And I think this is very important for us to do this because generally when people look at the Sharia...
Sorry, I have many proofs that Muhammad was a liar and that he was also deluded. In fact, I'm going to bring on some experts on that quite soon about his possible delusions and his possible illness.
Specifically in the Netherlands and Europe, everyone's pointing the finger at religion. You guys are backward, barbaric. You have nothing good to contribute. Just be humanist. You don't need religion to be good. But actually, when we look into the objective academic studies, we see something closer to our narrative. Let me give you one example. In 2001, Schnittke, in the Journal for the Scientific Study of Religion...
Yeah, I just don't find anything here. I mean, it's just a bunch of sophistry, a bunch of appeal to emotions and very big claims that are not substantiated in any way. In the conversion story, I did not find anything that is convincing, anything that is intellectually stimulating. Nothing that I have not heard before. I will lovingly watch these two other videos in which he explains why Islam is true, and I might indeed make a separate response to these as well. But so far, I think, you know what, I think we have very much concluded this chapter, this episode of analyzing the conversion of Hamza Tzortzis to Islam, and we have seen that, unfortunately, in his conversion story, there is nothing impressive, nothing that is supposed to, make us convinced that Islam is true. I simply do not think that there's anything substantial here at all. Convince me otherwise. Tell me that I missed something. Tell me that I completely ignored something intellectually great, brilliant that I saw here. Convince me that I have refused to engage with a certain intellectually fantastic argument. Convince me that there is something that I have not addressed, something that I deliberately did not address because I was such a terrible liar or so blind. Convince me. I simply don't see it. What I see is a person grows up in a culturally Muslim environment, is drawn closer to Islam by his environment, by the people that he knows, by the people that are around him. He feels fascinated with the Muslim practices for some reason. And in the end, he looks past the bad stuff, justifies Islam to himself without any proper reason, as we can see, and then he converts to Islam. Can he explain to us why Islam is true? So far, I have not seen it. I will be glad to find out more. Yeah. Don't know what to say. That's it. That's Hamza Tzortzis. And I'm not wearing a cross. I deliberately put this on because I knew that people would think it's a cross. It's not a cross. This is actually the Egyptian symbol of life. This is the Egyptian Ankh, the symbol of life. This is the Egyptian symbol of life itself, and also in old Egyptian hieroglyphs, the symbol for the word life itself. And just because I like mythological stuff, and because I like religious stuff and old ancient stuff, I find this symbol quite interesting, quite nice. That's it. I'm not a Christian. Not at the moment. Okay, well, that's it, guys. That's it, everybody. I said at the beginning of this episode, of this very stream, that Muslims and some others told me that I go after low-hanging fruit by talking about poor converts like Sajid Lipim or the Muslim mathematician. So I decided to look into someone who is praised as this great convert, Hamza Tzortzis, someone that I heard about a lot when I myself was a Muslim, but I have again not seen anything here that convinced him of the truth of Islam and that I could properly engage with. All I see is emotions. So, and some people might ask, especially if you are from a Muslim background and you are a Muslim viewer, you might ask, what would I accept as an example of something intellectual? Well, simple. Show to me, with proper reasoning, with certain core teachings, with certain things that the Quran says, show something to me, show things to me that clearly show that the Quran makes an argument or brings certain evidence which clearly points at the truth that Islam is true, which is irrefutable, which we cannot engage with, which intellectually exhausts us, which makes us which makes us speechless. It is so shocking. It is so brilliantly convincing. It is such great evidence, such a good argument that it convinces us absolutely that Islam is true. I mean, give me something in that direction. I have so far not seen anything about that. All I see is, well, atheism makes no sense. Well, Christianity is false. Well, life cannot be meaningless. Well, this cannot be meaningless. This cannot be that, and that cannot be that. Well, do you just want to live your life in pain and suffering? Do you just want to drink alcohol? Therefore, Islam is true. All I see is nobody has ever written something better than the Quran, which is a claim that you can make about, I don't know, Jack and Jill went up the hill as well. All I see is stuff like Muhammad was a reliable person. He was the trustworthy. Prove me wrong. I don't accept your proofs, by the way. And just things like that, just claims that have no substance, no evidence at all. All I see is emotion. All I see is empty claims. And I initially went on the journey of looking at conversion stories because I saw that Muslim apologists often analyze ex-Muslim stories and assert that we leave Islam for emotional reasons. But when I look at people who leave Islam and when I look at their stories, including myself, we present arguments and evidence. And people have told me to look at those people who convert to Islam, and I thought, okay, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should engage with their arguments and see where this is going. But all I see is emptiness so far. I'm sorry. Show us the hikmah. Show us the wisdom. That's it. If Muslims want to offer somebody who is truly impressive, I am ready and willing to accept their conversion story and to look through that right here on this channel. I have some people suggested I should look at this guy blogging theology, Paul Williams or something like that. He's apparently very intellectually strong. I have not seen any Why I Converted to Islam video from him, but I contacted him myself and asked him if he can suggest a certain video or a specific article to me in which he explains why he converted to Islam. So I am willing to engage with that as well. I am really completely honest, completely open about this. Dear Muslims, if you want to present somebody, if you want to present some really impressive Muslim convert who will completely shut us up, who will make us baffled in ignorance and astonishment, bring it here. I'm happy to look at it. Please. boy. Yeah. Stormtrooper 41 said, my getting destroyed by a Shia at Speaker's Corner was a metaphysical matter, Fareed. Yeah. Milahan, Philosopher's Corner, said, I'm paying so much attention to Milahan because she's a Muslim convert who has been wanting to discuss with me. If people don't fear a deferred punishment for actions, it could breed chaos. That's an argument, but it's not really. I mean, therefore what? Therefore what? I learn how to behave in a society. This is similar to a moral argument for the existence of God, which I, to be very honest, find very weak. I think that moral arguments for God are very pathetic. And David Wood, for example, thinks they're quite strong. And I say to him as well that I find them very pathetic. And and we discuss about that. We are still supposed to continue our debate on that. But I don't understand how you can argue that if people don't fear some punishment, things will descend into chaos, which I completely disagree with. But and therefore Islam is true. I don't know. Stop Scamming Man said the Quran contains terrible apologetics, like saying if there was more than one God, there would be chaos in creation. Humans are capable of cooperating. Quran claims God would act like a toddler. Yes, I actually made that argument before, and I have also made a note of making a video response to exactly that claim in the Quran. But I want to kind of expand it a little bit more before I make a video response to that. I actually wanted to discuss that with these 4 Muslims as well, but unfortunately things have quickly descended into slander and all that with them, unfortunately. But yeah, the Quran does say that if there were more gods beside Allah, then everything would be in chaos, everything would be upside down. And I just think to myself, why? Why is that the assumption that we are supposed to make about multiple gods, if multiple gods did exist? What do these gods have to fight over? Are we really supposed to think it is impossible that there are multiple gods by the Quran's account, by Islam's account? Because if gods did exist, then they could simply not stop each other from exerting their power over each other, because somehow they have to, somehow they want to. They just can't help it. They just want to. They just want to dominate each other. They just want to act like dogs. How is that an argument? Is it not possible that maybe there is a God outside of this universe, outside of this world, and maybe there is another world? Maybe there are multiverses. Maybe there's a multiverse with different gods behind them, and they have absolutely no need, no desire to exert power over each other, to dominate, to conquer each other. Why would they? They have endless possibilities. Everything belongs to them. The world is an eternal, limitless space for them. They don't have any needs or desires if we think of them as God or gods who are perfect. Why should one God exist and one God feel the need or have the desire to create human beings and to create a world while being perfect? Why can not 2 gods or multiple gods also coexist and be perfect while not fighting over property? We fight because we have needs, because we have survival needs and instincts and all that. Why would gods do that? Do they have to survive too? Are they scared that the other god will take their food away? What kind of a weird argument is that? The Quran is a book that is full of poor, dumb arguments. And the Muslims of our time have to sit down and become philosophers over the stupidity that the Quran presents and the ignorance that Muhammad brought. Ahmad Ashraf said, "AP, why do you want to take a Kaaba?" Are you serious, or is that being sarcastic? Yeah, I made this post in which I said that my ultimate goal is to take over the Kaaba and turn it and rightfully turn it into a place where everyone can freely worship, purified from Islam. And some Muslim apologists, the Muslim mathematician, took that very seriously and really attacked me over that, when all I was doing was just making a dumb joke to make a point about Islam. I mean, how dense can you possibly be? Billy Mandalay said, "What are those books on your table?" To be very honest, some of them I haven't touched in a while. I mostly read books on my phone. Here, what are they? Oh, three of them are actually Qurans. That's funny. One is Unveiled by Yasmin Mohammed. She shares her story of leaving Islam and all that. It's a very, very nice book. I completely recommend that. One is the Bhagavad Gita, which I have not completely read through, which I mostly read and listened to and studied, but didn't entirely read through in its entirety. There's one of my favorite go-to things about Muhammad, The Life of Muhammad, based on Ibn Ishaq's writings about Muhammad, which is one of the earliest biographies about Muhammad, and it reveals a lot of pretty useful stuff that everyone should know about Muhammad and about Islam. What else do I have here? I have this crappy Quran translation by Yusuf Ali. I don't know why I have this here. I don't even like Yusuf Ali translations. They're so dumb, to be honest. This is the Bible, New American Standard Bible. I have two Qurans here, just in case. I think one of them has. Did I step on one of these? I don't know. And finally, I have a summary of Sahih Bukhari here, which I sometimes look at for fun. That's all that I have here. These are just things that I want to have here if I need to look at them for a specific thing. I've made notes. I normally don't read books this way. I usually read per Kindle or other platforms. Yeah. Dominus Augustus said, "LMAO, I have the Yusuf Ali version too. I kind of just want to burn it." I hate this. I don't know why this is such a popular translation of the Quran. I mean, it is. I think this is such a dumb translation, to be very honest. And it's not something that I'm saying because I'm an ex-Muslim or because I don't like Islam. I think it's a very dumb misrepresentation and poor translation of the Quran. I think it's horrible. It doesn't do the Quran justice. It doesn't represent it very well, even from an Islamic point of view. And it has these bunch of misleading additions and commentaries and all that. It's such a useless translation. I hate it. I don't know why it's so popular. If anyone ever asked for a Quran translation, I would say, please, any translation, but not Yusuf Ali. It's dumb. Why? Why do you want to provoke me into ripping it up? It's just it doesn't even have the Arabic text in it. It doesn't count. It doesn't have the Arabic text. It's just English. Yeah. Yeah. Milahan Philosopher's Corner said, "I like Sahih Bukhari." Me too, especially when it talks about the sun traveling at night to its resting place until it prostrates itself under the throne of Allah, where it then waits and asks Allah for permission to rise again. And then Allah says, "Oh yeah, go ahead, rise. You have permission." And then the sun travels to its rising place and comes out again and does the same thing again. It's very, very insightful to me. Milahan Philosopher's Corner said, "Hierarchy is in nature." Well, many things are in nature. People also have the instinctual thing to kill, but I wouldn't encourage just going out and doing that. Many different forms of copulation that we do not accept as acceptable within a civilized society are also part of nature. Bonobos like to have sex all together. They like to have orgies when they fight to make peace. So that's in their nature. And we could, I don't know, lots of things are in nature. They don't necessarily make. They are not necessarily in agreement with a divine philosophy. Honestly, that's just me. Let me see. Let me look at super chats. Suzuki Lucky said, "You just got to believe in it, you infidel." Yeah. Apostate Prophet said the Gita is a bloodbath practically. I'm aware of that. It's basically, well, that's the whole point of the Bhagavad Gita. It starts with it's part of texts, and the whole book is about a fight, a war that is happening because of a matter of conflict between power, and Krishna basically comes in and speaks to Arjuna about what he has to do. Arjuna doesn't want to fight. He says, how am I supposed to go out here and kill and shed blood? And Krishna basically teaches him about his role in life and how you have duties in life, and sometimes you must do the things that might not be so obviously right to you. And it's quite a deep philosophical book. It's very, very nice in that regard. One major thing that I just had right at the beginning of reading the Gita was like, yeah, nice. You could argue that I have a specific purpose, a specific role in life, but I just disagree with that, But that's just me. Psychology Today said, only debate Islam from now on. No distractions. Topic, is Islam true? Muslim apologists always run away from this topic and argue against atheism. I know. I already had that decision made that I will not debate atheism with Muslim apologists. That the only thing that I will possibly debate with them is Islam. I made an exception for these people because they were so nice initially, but wrong. I'm not wearing the cross. I'm just wearing it for confusion on purpose because I like confusing people. But this is the Egyptian Ankh, the sign of life. It's because I have a thing for ancient stuff and Egyptian stuff. Let me see the super chats here. I loved having a live stream yesterday where people could just join me and talk. I really enjoyed that so much that I so badly want to do that again every day now. But I'll probably I might actually do that on a weekly basis if I can figure out a proper system to have chats and to take calls every week. Because I really like that. I think it's very beneficial to me and maybe enjoyable to everyone else as well. Okay, let me look at the super chats. I have no proper overview over them because YouTube sucks, but I will try to find them now. The past super chats which I have not seen, and then I will respond to those. In fact, let me put them on the screen here so that everyone can see what the hell I'm responding to. Okay, share my screen. I don't know why I love going live these days. Here. Okay. So these are the super chats that happened today. Sarah Reynolds said, AP, you're the best and true prophet. Peace be upon you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know I am the true prophet, and those who don't believe in me are the worst of creatures, and they have a disease in their hearts. Zahra Tuleil made a super chat, didn't say anything. Thank you. Zahra Tuleil made another super chat and said, love the red t-shirt and the cross. You look like Brother Dawood here. Yeah, it's a red shirt and an Egyptian sign, though. No confusion, please. I want to normalize this. That's why I'm putting this on. I know I have another excuse why I like to wear this. Stop Scamming Man said, the irony, I have already read that. Stefan Milievich said, women, listen to this guy. We kafir guys just want your flesh. Muslim men wants to have you for entire life, you and 3 more. Seriously, I want to say something about that. I want to say something about that. I know the average edgy young Muslim guy who thinks, who considers himself an online online fascist or something like that, and who is proud of saying stupid, edgy things, will probably say, "Oh, this is such a feminist take." But no, that's not the point at all. In a Western world, we have societies, and in many other cultures, in many other civilizations, we have societies in which a civilization consists of men and women that are both part of the civilization, that both make the civilization change and walk and advance toward the future. It's kind of like, I know nowadays we're getting into a lot of differentiations of what gender is and all that, but I will stick to the known narrative at the moment. As I view it, men and women are like the two legs of a society, and they both need to function. They both need to walk equally for a society to make proper progress. A society cannot simply progress and cannot simply function, cannot simply be built on purely the ideas and impulses of men. It needs the ideas of women as well, who are not less intelligent, as Islam claims, as Muhammad claims. Men and women are equal parts of a society. They should both be part of laws, of how our society changes, of how it makes progress. This is how societies evolve, how they make progress. This is why Western society is so much more advanced, so much more reasonable. In an Islamic society, the one leg is crippled, it's disabled, it is not meant to be equal, it is not meant to walk. Women are disabled. They are that sounds so bad if you take that out of context, but women are not considered an equal part of civilization in an Islamic society. They are put into the background, put into a closet, buried under a cover, silenced, not made part of the society. They do not contribute in any way to how a society functions, to how a society changes, to the things that we do in a society, to how a society is ruled and governed, how a society philosophizes. Such a society cannot make proper progress, because those people who live within that society have no right to speak for themselves. Women who are part of the society have no right to speak for themselves. They have no right to actually express their feelings, to be in charge, to lead, to be part of governing bodies. They are simply beings who are seen as servants, as pleasure objects that stay at home, that cook and take care of the children, are quiet, shut the hell up, bury themselves under a cover, and only speak and only go out if the man says that they can. And that is simply ridiculous. From a Muslim point, to then come and claim that Islam elevates and values women while a Western free society does not, that is just such giant stupidity. I simply cannot deal with that. But yeah, that's just me. Sorry for the rant. Yeah, Stop Scamming Man said the fact that far more Muslim countries have legal marital rape is damning of the idea that expecting women to be super chaste will make things fairer for them and make men have healthier attitude. Yeah, it doesn't solve the issue either. It's like I have heard, when I was a Muslim, I heard many times men say this stupid thing that men justify Islam by saying that men have certain desires, and Islamic laws were built accordingly because Allah is aware of the nature of men. Well, that doesn't say anything at all. Women have desires to look at other men. Women have desires to sleep with more than men, with more than one man at some point. That doesn't mean that just because men have certain desires, just because men have a certain desire to have a certain status within a society, just because men want to have multiple wives, just because men want to be in charge, that doesn't mean that this is the divine thing to do, and we should simply disregard the desires of women. Women also have natural desires that are completely in conflict with the Islamic ethics. Why don't we listen to them? Why don't we listen to them? Why don't we give them the microphone? Why don't Muslim women come out and give their opinions? Why don't Muslim women come out and preach? Why don't Muslim women come out and tell us how they honestly feel about life and about their status within society? Why don't Muslim women lead the narrative? Where are the women? Why are Muslim women reduced to tokens, to one woman who is there, who serves as the one Muslim woman speaker, who speaks for all the Muslim women? Why are men always out there telling us everything that women supposedly want and don't want? Stop Scamming Man said, maybe this would be a good convert to do a deconstruction on. Gabriel El Romani. Have you heard of him? I have not. I will take a note of this and look into that. In honor of all Muslims, I donate to Apostate Prophet, Morik 1967. Thank you so much. I think that Muslims will appreciate that deeply. Erican Alpgune, thank you, Erican, for being here. Hope you're fine. Why do you wear a cross? Oh yeah, that was earlier. It's not a cross, I said. Stop Scamming Man said, the Quran contains terrible apologetics. I responded to that. Thank you again for that addition. I really want to make a video on that specific argument. Royal Scale said, come on, AP, peace be upon you. Nobody saw the splitting of the moon because people were sleeping. I will never get over the fact that some people really think that that was a good argument. When Fareed said that we don't have heaps of evidence for the moon being split because people were asleep at night. I mean, how can you choose to be so dumb? Psychology Today, I read that. And Suzuki Lucky said, you just got to believe it. I read that too. I think I have some more super chats ever since. I will quickly read them as well before I leave. Oh, here's one more. Lord Deimos, the Lord of Darkness, said, Apostate Prophet, impossible to debate an atheist. It's not for us to defend something we don't believe in. Impossible to debate an atheist. It is not for us to defend something we don't believe in. Yeah. This is the thing. When I speak about Islam and when I ask Muslims why they don't just want to debate Islam with me, why they instead want to talk about other things, what they often say is, well, you're an atheist. Why don't you talk about atheism? Well, dude, I'm not here to advertise atheism. I'm not here to propagate atheism. I'm not here to say, hey, don't believe in anything. I'm not here to say, hey, don't believe in God. So that's not what I'm here for. What I'm here for is to refute the claim that Islam is true and that we all have this responsibility, this obligation to accept Islam. What I'm here for is to refute your claims that we must accept Islam. That's what we are here for. You Muslim apologists have the mission to spread Islam. So why do you want to talk about what I do not believe in? Let's talk about Islam. Let's talk about the thing that you propose, right? I am only an atheist insofar that I do not believe in the one God. That's it. That's all there is to it. I'm not an atheist apologist or advocate or whatever it is. Milahan Philosopher's Corner said, for me, I'm not jealous woman, so being in a polygamous marriage is okay. That's good for you, not for many others who unfortunately struggle with that problem. Yeah. You know, the funny thing is, when I was a religious Muslim, I thought to myself, hey, I love this religion. I love Allah, and I am obedient, and I know He has the wisdom. But do I have to? Will I definitely get my huris, my women in paradise that Allah will give to me, that will be so glorious that I can have sex with forever? I mean, is that really? I don't think I really want that. You know, that's not something that I have on my mind. That's not something that I want. Can I just say, hey, I don't want that specific reward. Thanks. Is that something that I can say? And funnily enough, when I asked a scholar about this, what he said to me was that my thoughts and emotions and my perspective is limited. Allah knows best what is in my nature, and He knows best what is for me. So I should not further think about such things and simply accept what Allah says as true. He knows the wisdom behind it. That kind of what you just said makes me think of that. You may not have any jealousy, and you might be okay with the idea that your husband can marry as many wives as he wants, but just because you feel that way, that doesn't say anything about others. Others don't feel that way. There are many Muslim women who struggle with the whole idea that Muslim men can have multiple wives. There are many Muslim women who struggle with the idea that men will have these big-breasted, transparent wives in the afterlife. Humans are not all equal. They are all different. And Islam makes these singular promises for everybody that simply do not make everyone happy. When you call out awful hypocrisy, such as Muslims claiming Islam empowers and elevates women, that's not just you. It's a worldwide problem. Yeah, I know. I'm just, sometimes when I say that's just me after a long rant, I don't know why I do that. I'm just being kind of sarcastic, because I feel like I have just said something that is kind of too obvious, but then I just say, but that's just me. So that's just what I do. That's just my dumb thing that I do. Okay, I should just leave. I think I leave it here. It's almost 2 hours, dude. I guess I really love going live these days. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. I will come back with more. I will be live on Thursday with Pine Creek here on this channel, I believe, to discuss the whole idea of God. I would like to have discussions with Christians on this. Next week, I would love to go live again and to take calls. I really enjoyed that. Tomorrow, I will publish a video. I might publish another video today. So there's really stuff going on right now. And the channel will, again, blow up soon for different reasons that I'm currently working on. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for joining. Have a fantastic day. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, Pine Creek, God Night, Egener, thanks for streaming. Have a fantastic day, everybody, and stay away from Islam.